Welcome to our Yom Kippur services. I'm so glad you're joining us. It's a beautiful day and a really, really important day. It's a day we spend in the synagogue. This year we can't spend it in the synagogue, but we can still be together. So thank you so much for joining the Cantor and me and for joining together on this day of Yom Kippur. If you asked your parents, what is the most important thing about Yom Kippur? What's one of the most beautiful songs about Yom Kippur? I bet you they would say the song of Kol Nidrei. It's a beautiful song, and no one sings it better than our Cantor. Listen.
Kol Nidrei v'sarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei u'shevuot.
Look, our ark is opened, and look at the Torah scrolls. If you've been here before, you know that we have 7 beautiful Torah scrolls. And you may notice something about these Torah scrolls. They're dressed beautifully. Many of them have silver on them. They're dressed like a king or a queen with a crown. Look at that beautiful crown on that one up there. And they also have a breastplate, and they have beautiful bells. But the most important thing is that they're dressed in white. Everything is wearing white on this day of Yom Kippur. Even the Rabbi and the Cantor were dressed in white. Because white is about starting off new. We get to start the new year on the right foot. We get to start all over, just like white. Everything is pure and new. And that's our hope for the new year and for this day of Yom Kippur.
Hi kids. So on Yom Kippur, it's a time that we think about the things that we have done, the mistakes we have made that may have hurt other people, and any pain that we have caused our brothers, our sisters, our friends. And this is the time of year where we think about those things, those times, and we ask for forgiveness. We ask God for forgiveness, to forgive us for all our mistakes, and we ask people, our friends and family, to forgive us. So think about sometimes when you have gotten into a fight or your feelings were hurt and how you handle that situation. Think about, did you say you're sorry? Because if you say you're sorry, that's the right thing to do. When we hurt each other, we have to ask for forgiveness and apologize and say we're sorry. So that's what we do on Yom Kippur, and I want you to all think about that at this time of year.
Hey, I'm so excited to read this story to you. It's a really wonderful story. It's called The Hardest Word. A long time ago, the world had many large and fabulous creatures. One of those creatures was a gigantic yellow bird with dark red wings and a purple forehead. He was called the Zitz. The Zitz was so huge that when he spread out his wings, he blocked the sun as if he were a dark rain cloud. And every time he flew over a town, all the mothers would call to their children, "Come inside quickly before it rains." This made the big Zitz sad. He loved children and didn't want to spoil their playtime. So the Zitz started flying around at night when no one would notice that he made the sky dark with his gigantic wings. And that worked fine for a while. And then one night the big Zitz flew too high and he bumped into a star. Sizzle, snap, bang! The star fell out of the sky and down to the earth, and it burned a big hole in the ground. The next morning when the Zitz saw the big hole, he was worried. What can I do to cover this hole, he asked himself. And he thought about it for a while and came up with an idea. He stretched out his huge wings and went back up into the sky. And this time he knocked down a cloud. plop. The cloud was full of rain, and it filled the big hole with water. Now the big hole was a lovely pond, perfect for swimming. And all the children came running to the pond, screaming with delight. It was a hot, sunny day, and they had a wonderful time splashing and playing in the water. That mistake is all fixed, the Zitz smiled. One day, however, the Zitz made a mistake he could not fix. It was the week before Yom Kippur, and he was flying along, not watching where he was going, and he flew smack into the tallest pine tree in the world. Boom! The tree fell over and knocked over another tree, and the tree knocked down another tree, and the tree fell on the vegetable garden behind the synagogue. Smash, squash, oops. Oh no, the Zitz covered his eyes with his big wings. Not the vegetable garden, it belongs to the children. And the Zitz uncovered his eyes to look at the damage. The tomatoes, the corn, the pumpkins, the beans, the gourd, the squash. All the vegetables the children had worked so hard to plant were smashed to bits. I can't knock down a cloud and fix this, the Zitz cried. And the Zitz flew home and sat in his own garden to think. He had watched the children plant their vegetable garden. Every year they harvested the fruits to decorate their sukkah. What would the children do this year? And the Zitz spread out his big wings and flew off to have a chat with God. And the Zitz had a special place where he liked to talk to God. It was Mount Sinai. And the Zitz was so huge that when he stood on Mount Sinai, his purple feathered head reached right up into heaven. What have you done this time? God asked as soon as he saw the Zitz. This was not the first time the Zitz had come to Mount Sinai after making a mistake. I knocked over a big tree. It knocked over another tree that smashed a vegetable garden, and it was the children's garden. God questioned. Yes, the Zitz admitted, hanging his head. That's a problem, God said. I can't knock down a cloud and make this better. No, you can't, God agreed. What should I do? I want you to do something for me, God said. Anything, the Zitz promised. I want you to search the earth and bring back the hardest word. The hardest word? The Zitz questioned. Yes, God answered. Now go. And the Zitz stretched his big wings and went off to search. He flew over mountains. He flew over trees. Flap, flap, flap. I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, flap. Searching for the hardest word. And after searching the whole day, the Zitz stopped to rest at the edge of a forest. In a little house nearby, he heard a mother and a child arguing. I don't want to go to bed, the little boy said. You need your rest, the mother said. I'm not tired, the little boy cried. Good night, the mother said firmly, closing the door. And the Zitz flew over valleys and he flew over seas. That's it. The Zitz flapped his wings. The hardest word. I found it. Zitz flew as fast as he could to Mount Sinai, and with great excitement he put his bird feet down on the top and poked his purple feathered head into heaven. I found it. I found the hardest word. What is it? God asked. It's good night. Every child hates that word. And the Zitz did a dance right on top of Mount Sinai. He loved being right. Good night is a hard word for children, God agreed. I knew it, Zitz danced. But there is another word. It's even harder, God said. There is, Zitz slumped over, disappointed. There is, God declared. Now go and find it. So the Zitz spread out his mighty wings and went off to search. And he flew over mountains, and he flew over trees, he flew over valleys, and he flew over seas. Flap, 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 I'm the biggest bird. Flap, 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 searching for the hardest word. And after searching all day, Zitz stopped at a big feast on the grounds of a castle, and he listened. And with so many people talking, he felt sure someone would say the hardest word. I'm hungry, a little girl said to her mother. May I have some spaghetti, please? And the mother smiled. You want spaghetti? That's it, Zitz realized. I've got it now. And he spread out his great big wings and flew back to Mount Sinai, and he planted his bird feet on the mountaintop and poked his purple feathered head into heaven. I know the hardest word, he's saying. What is it, God asked. It's spaghetti. It's a hard word to pronounce. And the Zitz hopped up and down on the foot. Standing still was hard, especially when he was excited. Spaghetti is a hard word to say, God agreed. Didn't I tell you? Zitz hopped some more. But there is another word that's even harder, God said. There is? And the Zitz slumped over, disappointed. There is, God declared. Go out and find it. And the Zitz stretched his big wings and went back out to search. And he flew over mountains, and he flew over trees, and he flew over valleys, and he flew over seas. Flap, 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 I'm the biggest bird. Flap, 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 searching for the hardest word. And the Zitz searched for 3 more days, and he brought back lots of words to Mount Sinai. Words like rock, rhinoceros, ridiculous, and Rumpelstiltskin. Each time, God sent the Zitz back to find another word. By the evening of Yom Kippur, the Zitz had brought over 100 words to Mount Sinai, and God had not accepted any of them. And the Zitz was discouraged. He had tried and tried and tried, and he flew back to Mount Sinai to have one more discussion with God. What word did you bring me this time, God asked. No word, the Zitz said quietly. No word, God asked. No, the Zitz said sadly. I've come to say, I'm sorry. I can't find the hardest word. You can't, God asked. No, the Zitz shook his head. I'm sorry. You're sorry, God asked. Yes, Zitz nodded his big purple head. I'm sorry. Good job, God said. You found the hardest word. I did? And now the Zitz was confused. Yes, God said. The hardest word is sorry. While all the words you brought me were hard, sorry is the hardest. I always say I'm sorry on Yom Kippur, the Zitz said. Well, you should say it at other times too, God answered. Like when I smashed the garden, Zitz asked. That's right, God said. Sorry. And the Zitz thanked God and pulled his purple feathered head out of heaven. And then he spread out his great big wings and flew back to the children's garden. And on the way, he stopped at his own garden and gathered a big basket of fruits and vegetables for the children. It was time to say the hardest word. I'm sorry. On Yom Kippur, we look at our mistakes and we say, I'm sorry. We try to repair our friendships and all of the people we love. We try to go to them and say, I'm sorry, I want to fix things. So one of the prayers we say is Va'al Kulam. It talks about all the wrongs we've done. We think about them together as a group. We join in the words, Va'al Kulam.
Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot selach lanu mechalanu selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
So you may know that your mom and dad are not eating on Yom Kippur. One of the things we do on Yom Kippur is we don't eat, we fast. The idea is, as much as I like to eat, and I'm sure you like to eat, the idea is that on this day, we focus on what's inside. We try not to think about how much food we're eating, what kind of food we're eating, if we like the dinner, if we don't like the dinner. We just try to think about what we can fix in our lives, how we can do better. But one of the things that we always believe is that no matter what, God is always going to forgive us. And so we join in song and prayer the words, Salachti Kidvarecha.
Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha.
I hope you know this prayer. We join together in the words of the Shema. It says that God is one and that we are one people. Join with us as we pray the words of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
A beautiful song that we want to conclude our Yom Kippur service with is the words of Olam Chesed Yibaneh. It's a song that was recently written. It's a beautiful song, and it talks about making the world better. The world will be healed and fixed by love and peace and kindness. We can always do better and be more kind. Olam Chesed Yibaneh.
Olam Chesed Yibaneh, ta-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, ta-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, ta-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, ta-da-da, da-da-da.
Shana Tova.
Thank you so much for joining us on this Yom Kippur. Shana Tova Umituka. May it be a sweet new year, a year of health and happiness.